Blessings BookTube. This is a Tag Tuesday. I'm here today with a tag called 8 Memories. And this is to talk about books that evoke a strong memory, not just of the book itself, but of the sort of the circumstances surrounding it in your life. And I want to send a big thanks to Books Do Things to Me, who has tagged me with this. She was tagged by the Uncommon Reader, Daniela. And it was created, the tag was created by Paul at the Accidental Bookseller. So here we go. I've got a few more than 8, but there's basically 8 categories of my life in no particular order. In fact, out of order. We can start with my studying abroad years in Paris. This could also stand in for my undergrad years. And I chose to do this only about books about which I have made videos. So if any of this interests you, you can go and check out my video about it. So that was a fun way to do it. Otherwise, there's too many books swimming around in my brain that bring memories. So yes, so Zadig, and I believe I've also got one. Yes, I also have one by Candide. When I was an undergrad, I had this fat book of Voltaire's stories. Maiga, I've seen booktubers do videos on him. Anyway, I loved all the stories in there. There's some Orientalist stuff to be said about it, stealing from 1001 and Panchatantra and stuff. But basically, I just love these stories. And Voltaire is very witty. He's philosophe, honnête homme, he did a lot eventually towards the revolution, but he did a lot toward legal reforms and things of that nature, besides being an amazing author. Plays, not so great. Anyway, so I believe I have videos there. I have a video about Zadig, which might be in my Pastiche series. And I have a video about Candide, which I did after the earthquake here in Bangkok. So you can check those out. I was in a degree program at the University of Paris 4, La Sorbonne, in Doug Studies, Lettres Modernes. I took courses in exoticism in literature, feminism in literature, translation. What else? A lot of stuff. Napoleon, a lot of Napoleon and Revolution stuff. Also Russian and some other random classes. Okay, so to represent my time in living in Latin America, I've recently lived in Honduras and Mexico Honduras for the second time, Mexico for the third or fourth time. That's where I spent my sort of last few years before I came here to Bangkok. I'm choosing Evil Hour by Garcia Marquez, although I have not been to Colombia, and I could have selected tons of amazing books from Mexico. Pedro Páramo, of course, Fuentes, Death of Artemio Cruz, etc., etc. I haven't done videos on those yet. In fact, I haven't done a lot of Latin American videos yet for some reason on this channel, although that's one of the languages I read in. I think because I was a bit saturated by it the last few years. But anyway, not Evil Hour, although Evil Hour is my favorite by him. I've read almost all of his books, if not all of his books. I remember discovering Years of Solitude, I want to say it was. Cholera, Love? Years of Solitude, I think. Where was I when I read that? But it was such an event, a literary event in my mind. It was really like, I had Borges on the one hand. You could do so much in one page. And then you had Marquez, who you felt could just spellbind you forever. And I just really felt the full potentials of literature when I read Marquez. To ground me in my U.S. identity, I'm choosing East of Eden. One of my good Peace Corps buddies, Todd, was astonished that I had not read East of Eden. He thought I was so well read. And so as soon as I got back to the States from Africa, I got my hands on it and devoured it. And it is by far my favorite, not just a Steinbeck, probably my favorite two definitely, and maybe favorite all-time American novel. To represent my British side, we've got Fielding. So I did a video on East of Eden, and I also did other videos about Hemingway. Who else? Saul Bellow, have I done? I'm trying to do all the U.S. Nobel winners. Toni Morrison. Anyway, I think for Steinbeck, East of Eden is the only one I've got for the moment. I feel like there was something else. All right, but anyway, so the British side, you could pick a million things to represent it, couldn't you? I've got videos of Shakespeare and whatnot. But I chose Fielding because he's just so funny and so liberating. And how did our literature start so free and end up where it is now, so moribund? But anyway, so I've got a video of Fielding, I think, in my Pastiche series. Henry Fielding's, can't remember which one it was that I did. Another thing that's special about this is watching the movies with my mom, who's British. We got her Brit box so she could watch British content on TV beyond PBS. And then I used to bring her back videos from like the campus university reservoir of DVD movies or whatever, back in the days of DVDs. And I would get her things like Fielding and things like that. I think, who was it did the Tom Jones movie that was so amazingly good? All right, got to move a little faster here. Okay, representing my time in the Republic of Georgia, that I went there after Senegal. I taught in a program that I loved called Teach and Learn with Georgia. And I have a video on here by Karumidze, a book called The Love Feast, Danye's Love Feast. Check that out. I had a lovely time in Georgia. A very grim presenting aspect, Georgia, but I had a host family that I loved. There was Gouladis, Georgie, and Guga, the three Georges, the three generations in the house. And very poor, but just beautiful people. Definitely can recommend Georgia as a place to go and check out. They made their own wine. They had their own vineyards. Amazing food every day, making bread and cheese and coffee, Turkish style. Anyways, so that you can check out that video there. Let's see, from my Peace Corps time, we've got a few. We've got videos about God's Bits of Wood, which I just read, but which is set on the train line, a strike on the train line from Bamako to Dakar, which I lived in Dakar when I lived in Senegal, and I did my Peace Corps in Mali, of which Bamako is the capital. And I took that train to visit my good friend Jeff, who was out in the far west of Mali, and in the Kai region, and hottest area on earth at that time, I think. And so we took the train out there. It was quite an experience. I've also got videos of poetry by my friend Prince, Ahamadou Maiga, who writes amazing poetry. There's also the Proust video, which you have to include for memory, right? I think the only Proust I have on here, because I'm not a huge lover, to be honest, is the tag, How Proust Changed Your Life, or whatever it was. And I remember this one because I was reading it. You read all the big classics in Peace Corps because you have all this time sitting in the desert. You can only plant trees so many hours a day. And, sweating through the pages of the book and dripping. But we had electricity where did we have electricity? Somewhere. And so I was reading at night. So it was, it's a little cooler. And I was reading Proust, thick. And I read something in the Proust. It was like, and suddenly, night fell, or he blew out the candle, or something like that. And then at the moment I read those words, the electricity went out, pitch black. It was really like, whoa, creepy, right? I mean, not as creepy as it sounds because the electricity would go out, all the time. But that was still kind of a fun little memory. What else have I not covered here? I think we just need to talk about my time in China. For this one, you can read a couple of videos I have about Gao Xingjian. One about Soul Mountain, his novel, and I think I also have something maybe in my poetry readings from his plays, one of his plays. And from my Master's in Divinity time at Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, I've got review written of a book written by my sort of mentor, Father John Mabry. He's amazing, and so I reviewed one of his books on there, sort of sci-fi, religious, interesting book. Check that out. And I've also got a couple videos about Tagore. When I was studying the Unitarian Universalist past, along with the Transcendentalists and all that, they had all these connections to sort of Vedantic Hinduism, Brahmo Samaj, these kinds of movements. And, I believe it was Tagore's father was very active in that. So I've got one about one of his poetries, I think, on there, maybe one of his plays. Can't remember. So I've got videos by and about him as well on there. So those are some memories of my travels through books and with books. And you can check them out if any of those interest you in my selection of videos. If you go down on my page, I've got a number of playlists that make it pretty easy to find things. So just if you're having trouble, go down to the playlists, and you'll be able to see the pastiche series or the poem series, whatever it might be. Okay, and I'll of course write these out down in my show notes. Thanks for the tag again. Books do things to me, and we'll see you next Tag Tuesday.